Hello, my name's and I scrapped that actually. Hello, I'm Philosophy and Ice. Welcome to my AMA. I finally reached 1,000 subscribers after several years. In part thanks to Mr. Verse, who whacked me on his podcast. I'll provide some links to that if you haven't seen it already. It's a very good listen. So I've got to celebrate. I've got to do an AMA with a couple of drinks. I've collated some questions from you lot, from Twitter and YouTube and those sorts of places. I'm going to answer them now. Here we go. Velociferon. Did you always drink whilst thinking about philosophy? I know I did. To be completely honest, a single sip of this stuff completely erodes my vocabulary, and my brain turns to mush and fog. But it does get me in the mood to talk philosophy, so here we go. Bandicoot. Some of these names. Bandicoot, I've lifted this from a comment on my video, The Failure of Empathy. I got a question for you. Do you believe in God? In short, no. But it depends on the definition of God, really. So, in the traditional monotheistic sense, no, I don't believe in any of those religious gods. I could possibly get on board with a kind of pantheistic view, but it really depends on how we define it, and it's a very difficult thing to try and define, and you end up deciding that you end up realizing that you believe in God if you define it in a certain way, but you don't if you define it in others. So that question is always needs to be hashed out as to what is actually meant by it. Jivanesh Sawney asks, when does it all end? Alright. I suppose there's several different answers to this question. The end is death of yourself, so that is one ending. You have the end of the world, i.e. what general people tend to mean by that is the end of all human life in its current form. And then you have what I suspect is the more interesting answer to that question, which is the end of existence of anything. And one of the more prevalent questions in philosophy or science is why there's something rather than nothing. And while I can't answer that, I've always kind of thought that there has always been something, and that means there probably always will be. Yeah, I think it doesn't end. I don't think it does end. I think it keeps going forever in a cycle, and we'll live the same life again and again forever, in different forms and in the same form. Next question is from Alessandro, who asks, who is your favourite philosopher? Which one do you identify with mostly? It's very hard just to have one, isn't it? One philosopher. Because I think our ideas on life come from a composite of a variety of different writers or philosophers, or just people in general, I guess. So if I had to pick one, though, I would go with someone like Friedrich Nietzsche. As cliche as that is, because he really revolutionised my idea of my perspectives on life, and gave me a fresh and novel understanding of the tragedies of it. But then also someone like Martin Heidegger, if I can have two, was another one of those people who managed to write about some of the things I was already thinking in a way that I couldn't ever articulate. I think they're the kind of writers who people identify with the most, are the ones who can write ideas that they're already thinking in a way that they can't articulate. Molly asks, what is your philosophy on life / life purpose? What is the meaning of life to you? My dad was a philosophy professor with a PhD in philosophy. This was always an essay question in his intro class. He passed away last year, and I miss our talks. I'll check out your channel. Oh, Molly. Thanks for being so open about that. It's refreshing. And I'm sad to hear of your dad's passing. I think philosophy can be useful in those sorts of moments, really, actually. And with any luck, those sorts of conversations that you might have had with him would have actually provided some of the tools that you might need to later then grieve for him as well. But yeah, purpose in life. I did a video on this recently. My last video was about this. And I don't believe particularly there's a universal meaning to life in general, an overall meaning. But that's why it's important to find your own personal meaning. And for me, I suppose the things that mean the most are things that are often cited as meaningful. So love and family and creativity and art and its various forms, storytelling, conversation, and helping others. These are all things that can provide joy in people's lives, and I'm indifferent. Afonso asks, where are you from and what are your political views? And also he wants to know 10 top books that I've read. I'm from Kent, which is in the south of England. My political views, I try and remain mostly neutral in political discussions. I'm obviously going to have opinions, but yeah, I try more and more nowadays to understand all sides of an argument. I suppose at heart I'm more of a what you would call a classical liberal, which is very different to what is now classed as the left. But generally, I just try and understand both sides as a means of learning, and I try and avoid political debate as much as possible because it's divisive and it doesn't win you friends. But yeah, I did a video on that as well, and that I was hoping would be the end of that question. So yeah, 10 books. Without having put too much thought into it, let's go. The Gay Science and Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche. We'll stick Being in Time in there, Martin Heidegger. Although, would I read it again? I don't know. It's very taxing. I would recommend Being in Time, but use the companion book. I'll throw a couple novels in there. So, Brave New World, 1984, Huxley and Orwell. I clearly love that dystopian shit. I really like American Psycho. That's a real attention grabber. I have this awesome book called Time's History of the World, which is a fucking huge book with like 1 million pages of all the major events in history. It's fucking great. Get it if you can. Find it on eBay. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker is a more recent one, which has changed my life entirely. That's a really good book about sleep and the science of sleep. But if I had to recommend any book to anyone, my favourite one would be this one, which is Letters to a Young Contrarian by Christopher Hitchens. It's a short book about the lives of some of the people who were radicals in their times or contrarians, and it's about how standing up for your principles is the most important thing above all else, and he writes about those in history who've done it, like Emile Zola, Rosa Parks, George Orwell, Galileo, Bertrand Russell, those types of figures who were contrarian or radical in their thoughts at the time. And he writes really well. There's a lot of gold in that book. Next. I'm sort of sat in this beanbag in an attempt to make it a bit more casual. I don't know if it's working. I feel a bit low. Problematica. What does that mean? What is outside the simulation? I don't know. I don't know what's outside the simulation. It's quite an incredible thought, though, and incredible how plausible the idea that we're living in a simulation is. I do like the idea that we're kind of part of this sort of much wider and higher intelligence in some way, which have figured out a way to create different worlds and experience life in different life forms. So, like, if we were this kind of infinite means of experience, then sooner or later you'd have the opportunity in infinite time to be able to experience any worlds, all worlds possible, and sooner or later you'd come across this one, and you'd do it, I suppose. It's not the best life, is it? But it's a life. It's just a interesting idea. I read a great tweet on this recently, which went along the lines of something like, imagine if when you died, you woke up to see a bong in your hands, and you look up to your alien friend and he says, "Dude, how was it?" I love that idea, that this entire experience is just a drug experience. Stelios Toulis asks, he says, "Congrats, dude, thank you very much." Stelios. What is your opinion on mathematics and mathematical truth? Alright, I think the rules of mathematics have to be a part of the overall mechanics of the way the universe is built. Beyond that, I don't know much more, but I know it's a very useful tool. What those mechanics are, I don't know, but that is my intuition. That's kind of just based on my intuition of other knowledge of the world, that it dictates the mechanics of the universe in some way. Sadly, it doesn't really translate too well with how we experience life as humans, the sort of subjective qualia that we as humans experience life with. G asks, what makes you happy the most? Although you say, thanks G, that's a nice question. Although, are you G or not? Because your screen name suggests your name is G, but your handle contradicts that and suggests that you're not G. You can't both be G and not G, that's a logical contradiction. But what makes you happy the most? I like food, wine, or any alcohol, and good company, and learning new shit. Vivek at 6 foot asks, who am I? I don't know. I don't know who you are, I suppose. Identity is a funny old thing though, I guess, isn't it? It's this constantly morphing, evolving thing which is never completely stable, yet at the same time always has a firm grounding. You know, some people never change. I don't really know what's true with that, with identity. It's made up of environmental and cultural things, but also from your DNA coding. Is it your perception of yourself, which is your identity, or is it others' perception of you? I don't know what's going on that. Maybe that's my next video. That'd be a good one. Rose asks, in spirit of all man's ability to learn, why is it too difficult to understand himself? Is man himself too self-centered? I mean, all people. Okay, I mean, that's an interesting one. It's weird when you think of all the things that we've accomplished as a species. You just have to look outside and the buildings and incredible things that we've created and made. And then you realise we kind of struggle to understand ourselves at all. I think it's something to do with the sort of the time scale of our evolution. So although we seem or appear to ourselves like we are the most intelligent species, at least on this planet, we're not much more intelligent than other apes and other creatures. So I think actually we're not as intelligent as we think. So if you have microbes down here, then you have monkeys up here. We're pretty much here, and then what you might describe as a god would be somewhere up there. So I think it's got something to do with that. Okay, so this was fun. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave some comments as to where you think I'm going wrong on these questions. Leave more questions, I'll answer them if you like, in the comments. Thanks again. I'll have a couple more of these tonight, and I'll should be back with some new videos soon. Thank you very much.